Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys we are going to be talking about Solemn Judgment. And the reason when we talk about Solemn Judgment today, guys, is a lot of players out there that are newer to the community have never played with this card before. And with it coming off the ban list recently, we wanted to talk about how to properly use Solemn Judgment. So that's the purpose of this video, to properly talk about when to activate it and when not to activate it. The reason for this being is I've seen a lot of players who haven't played with Solemn Judgment before, playing different tiers of Yu-Gi-Oh, your competitive and non-competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, using this card not at the right time. And from a player that's played with Solemn Judgment ever since Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8 came out, all those years ago in 2005, 2006, I need to make a public service announcement, I feel like. For you older school players, you probably already know when to activate Solemn Judgment, but this is a little refresher course if you forget some of the good times to activate it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the reason I want to talk about it is because I've actually played Solemn Judgment a lot since it's been banned. And you may say, well, how is that? I go back and play older formats a lot. One of the prime formats that I go play in is Teledad format. Now, Teledad format is when Solemn Judgment pretty much had its coming out party from under the rug. And what I mean by that is people talked about how good the card was, but nobody played it until Teledad format, and it was at 3 of. In 2009, it got limited, and since then, it was at limited status until it got banned in 2013. So that's a little history on the card there. But the reason it's such a powerful card and one probably by far the best Solemn card in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh archetype is because it pretty much can stop anything at the cost of half your life point. Now, half your life points. Now, the thing about Judgment is it can pretty much be run in every single deck out there. And from playtesting a lot, I feel like Solemn Judgment should be run in every single deck out there for the most part. There are exceptions out there, like if you are trying to do something weird, do something weird with your deck playing an off-the-wall build, maybe you don't play Judgment. But from playtesting, I've been playing Solemn Judgment. And as we're heading into this format, or this format at the moment, is still a little undefined. And what I mean by that is we think we know what the best deck is, but it's going to be Trick Stars, but there's a lot of rogue decks out there right now that are playing. And anytime I go into a format like this, I like taking a couple of decks along with me. Mermails, Gravekeepers, Gladiator Beast sometimes, and Blue Eyes White Dragon, because those are good, just generic decks, and it gives me a feel of what the format's going to develop into, how people are playing, how people are using their cards. And like I said, Judgment is not being used properly. So, with all that saying, and from me just saying, this is what I've been finding out from doing these different things by playtesting with other decks out there. The thing that people are doing a lot with Judgment is they're using it too early. Or if it gets twin twisted or destroyed, they're shotgunning the effect. So, for example, your opponent is going to dark hole your field, but you don't really have a board set up necessarily. You flip the Solemn Judgment out of instinction of, that's their power play, I stop it. But you neglect to see that they still have 4 cards in their hand, so they can still go off and do the combo play. They were baiting you out. And that's the thing about Solemn Judgment. Paying half your life points, and like I said, being a card that can be played in every single deck out there is great. But half your life points is a lot. It puts you in range for OTKs, FTKs, just being kicked out of the park because you activate it. You have to time the card properly. Activate it at the correct time. Now, how do you know when the correct time to act Judgment is? And how do you know when somebody is baiting you into a Judgment, like wasting your Judgment, or to see if you have a Solemn Judgment in the background? How does this work? So, one way people will do is they'll use mass destruction cards. Back in the day when Heavy Storm was legal, people did this as well. If you had a lot of back row set in a slower format, so especially if you want to play Stun in the new era with Torrential Tribute at 3, Bottomless at 3, and Thunder King back at 3, and you can play Stun variation decks, especially with Inspector Border out there. Pretty much, if you were to be heavy stormed in today's age, a lot of people I bet out there would just activate the Solemn Judgment immediately, even if they only had 2 other cards set besides the Judgment. That is you have to pick and choose. Is this card essential to what I'm trying to do to keep my board presence, or is it not? Do I already have board presence established? I don't mind my torrential tribute getting destroyed if I already have established board presence. I don't mind. That was the thing back then. But some people out there would still shotgun the effect, and what I mean by that is they just instinctively activate the judgment without even thinking about it, pay half their life points. The opponent would do something to get around it, then they would do something to get around you, and you would lose the game because you put your life points at a disadvantage, and they would do different things to hurt you. So there's a couple different ways that people can do that. They'll just instinctively do that back in the day. Today's examples, I guess you could say, it would be Dark Hole, Regeki, and Kaiju Slumber, and things of this nature. Effects that you think are powerful. Your opponent may have a broken hand, and you may say, well, that's their power play. And you'll just solemn judgment it, because you think that's their power play. They're Dark Hole in my field, the Regeki in my field. They are trying to break my board. I must stop this play. But you didn't stop to consider, like I said earlier, how many cards they have in their hand. If they have 4 or 5 cards, or it's turn 1, and they're using a Regeki or Dark Hole, what do you think they're trying to do? A, they're trying to break your board. That is true. But B, they are also trying to bait out a Solemn Judgment sometimes. A smart player is doing that if they know you're running Solemn Judgment. They will bait you out. They will try to make you use it. That way, in the rest of the duel, you're fine. So the downsides of activating it early, you lose a bunch of life points, you're more susceptible to being OTK'd, and for your opponent, they get the benefit of not having to worry about said card popping up in a crucial point in the game later down the road. You've already activated, it's a 1-of, it's gone, it's out of my mind. It's like Heavy Storm back in the day when it was at 1-of. You activated the Heavy Storm, okay, it's out of my mind. You know, nobody runs Magician of Faith, so it's gone. I don't have to worry about Heavy Storm. Now I can set all my back row. You get what I'm trying to say there. It's that crucial of a card. It's that important to strategies. Judgment can win and lose you games on activation alone. So use it wisely. And how do you use it wisely? So we've talked about some of the examples of when not to use it. When your opponent may be trying to bait you. When it's not a crucial point in the game. When it's unnecessary to do it. When it's very early on in the game sometimes. Heck, if your opponent twin twisters you, they go off, they twin twist you, just let the judgment fizzle. Just don't even use it. Just let it go to the graveyard. Be like, oh, all right, okay, judgment got destroyed. That's fine. You don't want to pay half your life points to stop a twin twister. I don't care what the other card is. Unless you're running like some wonky deck, let that field spell card just fizzle with twin twisters. It don't matter. Just don't take that life point. It's not worth it. So continuing on, when is the proper time to activate judgment? Now, from playing Teledad format over the course of Judgment being banned, and from playing with Judgment recently off the ban list in competitive, different competitive decks like Trick Stars even, or just Mermail, just Blue Eyes, just random good stuff, Dinosaurs, I've been playing it in, just decks that people are talking about being good tier 2, tier 1 decks. From playing it just to see how it would work out, like I said, most parts should be running every deck, but you have to use it wisely. Now to use it wisely, this is what you do. If it's in a grind game, so if you're in a grind game or your opponent, you have to know your opponent's facial expressions. How are they acting? Are they shuffling their cards back and forth? Are they taking a long time to think about what plays they want to do? That may mean A, they got a brick hand, B, they're trying to figure out what's the proper move to do because it's not blank, it's not written out for them like, ooh, this is a weird hand. What do I do with this hand? I got to think here. Do this and they'll be quiet sometimes. These key facial things, which I've always told people about that you can't recognize if you're playing online strictly, but if you play in real life, you'll notice that people have tells. And you can notice people's tells, especially when they get a bad hand. They get really quiet and they're thinking. I know people out there that do this a lot. And you can't hide your tells for the most part. The second way you can tell is by their hand advantage. Their hand size. If, like I said, you're in the grind game, things are going on, and you notice that they only have 1 or 2 cards left, they're like, okay, that last ditch effort play I get, that I'm trying to make work, that heart of the cards moment. You guys may understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying like, oh, they top deck something, but like, for example, they top deck the Monster Reborn that's unbanned. They're trying to win by doing this combo play. You flip up the judgment And therein lies the victory, because you stopped their key power play. That one card that if it went through, you lose. That one card that if you stopped, you won. And Judgment there won it for you. So the top deck Monster Reborns help out. If they have that one, only like one card combo, they're like, okay, I have these bricks in hand, but if this card goes through, I win the duel, or the game's going to continue to progress onwards in some fashion. It's going to take longer to finish. You'd be like, no, Judgment, no. Old man says no. So you get what I'm trying to say. Those crucial moments in a game, that is where Judgment shines. That is where you win and lose games just on Judgment alone. That is why using it at the proper time is so important. And if you understand, you probably maybe wondering why the heck are you getting so, happy for Judgment. Why are you so excited for Judgment? The crucial moments, because that is won me so many games just recently and playing in older formats. That's why Judgment is so powerful. It's a skillful card. It's one of these. I think for most players out there, if you played with Judgment back in the day even, you will understand as Judgment progresses into the format how skillful this card is. You can tell good players from bad players that use Judgment for the most part. Now sometimes great when I'm playing for fun, I'm not paying attention to what Judgment's doing. But in a crucial moment, you gotta know how to use it, when to use it. Is your opponent baiting you? How many cards do they have in hand? Is this their last ditch effort? That is when Judgment shines. But you have to be careful. Like I said earlier, people will try to bait your Judgment out. They really will. So those are my words to the wise for you guys that are not been around with Judgment being legal. And I want to talk about because how skillful of a card that card is, and how much I really love the card. Because it's using it at the proper time. It adds a layer of skill with that card, because you have to use it at the right time. People may say, well, you just activate it and negate. No, you can't do that with Judgment. You have to use it at the proper time, otherwise it will kill you most of the time. 85 to 90% of the time, it will kill you if you use it at the wrong time. If you use it at the proper time, it will do amazing things for you and be super clutch. But you have to know your opponent's deck by studying the meta. So you have to study the meta a lot so you know, okay, what are their key plays? What do they do well? And then once you know those things, then you can use Judgment at the proper time when you know what's their plays, or if you know their decks well enough, just as well as you know your own, you activate at the right time and you seize victory from the grasp of defeat. So those are my thoughts on Judgment from playing the card over the course of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. When to use it, how to use it, how powerful this card really is, and how it adds a layer of skill to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I got really into it because I love this card to death, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, may the Judgment gods be with you, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.